It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, brought to you by Fast Break Sports, the largest selection of cards and card supplies in Southwest Missouri. Now here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome in to another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, appreciate you taking time to listen to the podcast, and we're going to give you a double dose today, a little fun with a couple of Reagans. I guess it'd be Reaganomics or Everybody Loves Reagan, but we're going to talk to former Lebanon basketball standout Raegan McCowan, who's tearing it up at Western Illinois, and also former Springfield Catholic golfing standout Reagan Zibilski down at Arkansas as a sophomore, the number 1, 2, or 3 player down there for the Razorbacks, a top 5 program in the country. So going to have fun with the Reagans today, a couple short interviews with them, catch up on what they're doing. And as always, we start our podcast off with our look ahead to what's going on this week in area sports. Of course, it's basketball everywhere. High school basketball, the classes 1, 2, and 3 are in there. State sectionals, quarterfinals, trying to get to the Final Four mode. A couple of the teams that we're watching in particular are the Greenwood boys and the Fairgrove girls, both of them, as well as the Skyline girls, all with a great chance to make a run in the small schools toward Columbia and a state championship next week. But here in town, in the area, a couple of big districts with the classes 4, 5, and 6. The Class 6 district out at Glendale will be a fun one to watch all week. On the boys' side, I believe they get kicked off this Thursday night. You've got the likes of top seed Central, Kickapoo, Nixa, Republic, and Glendale are the top 5 seeds there, and all of them capable of getting hot at the right time and winning that district. That, again, on the boys' side, I know is a Thursday night, Saturday afternoon, and then Tuesday for the finals. I believe the girls are Wednesday, Friday, and Monday for the championship game in that district. So a lot of fun out at Glendale this week. Also up at Marshfield, the Class 5 district. Another dandy on both sides, boys and girls. Marshfield girls looking strong with Coach Katie Pritchard's squad being one of the best in the Ozarks all year. So good luck to all those high school teams. If you lose now, you're done. That's not a good feeling, but the winners survive and advance, and that's the motto right now throughout the Ozarks. Lady Bears basketball, Coach Beth Cunningham's team's 18-7 overall, 12-4 in the Missouri Valley. They have a homestand this week. They're home with Bradley on Thursday night and then Illinois State on Saturday. They're finishing up their regular season. Next week they've got road games at Illinois, Chicago, and Valparaiso before they head to their Valley Championship tournament. But good season by the Lady Bears. Should get to that 20-win mark this week, and another fantastic job by Beth Cunningham. Basketball Bears, they're 15-14. They're 7-11 in the Valley. They've lost 5 of their last 6. Not a good finish for Dana Ford and his job security. But they are at Illinois State as we tape this on Wednesday night. And then they're home on Sunday versus Illinois Chicago, their final game of the regular season. They will be up in St. Louis next week for Arch Madness and probably in the play-in round unless something miraculous happens. Finally, in the look ahead, the baseball Bears are home this weekend. They've opened on the road. They're off to a 4-3 start. Dropped 2 very tough one-run decisions down at another mid-major power in Southern Miss down in Hattiesburg over the weekend. But off to a 4-3 start, as I mentioned. They open their home slate this weekend. Arkansas State coming in for games scheduled Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I know the weather on the weekend is supposed to be pretty nice, so get a chance to get out and see Coach Keith Gutton's Bears in their final season under him. After 42 years, he announced his retirement, of course, last fall and was on the podcast with us back in November. But he's got a good squad, got some good young players. Sophomore Zach Stewart from Lebanon is the Valley Offensive Player of the Week. Had a good weekend down there in Hattiesburg. I know freshman Curry Sutherland from Rogersville, expecting big things out of him as well. So get out and catch baseball Bears action this weekend at home against Arkansas State. First guest today on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene is a former standout at Lebanon High School, a basketball star up there, has taken her talents to beautiful Macomb, Illinois for Western Illinois University, and she is setting the world on fire her freshman year there. We welcome Raegan McCowan to the podcast. Hi, Raegan.
Hey, Scott. Thank you so much for having me.
You betcha, absolutely. And we got to talk about it. 45 points this weekend against Southern Indiana, a new record for a women's basketball player in Western Hall. I'm sure they've been playing there for decades. What happened? I know you've had, 2 or 3 30-point-plus games already this year,
Yeah.
but 45. How did this happen?
I don't even know. I just I felt like I had a hot hand, and I ended up I saw on my Twitter that I had 15 fouls drawn, which I think I shot at maybe 18 free throws, but I drew like 15 fouls or something. I feel like the more I go to the line, the more I get going, and so I think I just had the hot hand, honestly.
Well, and you've got a coach, J.D. Gravina, who doesn't mind feeding that hot hand, right? That helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, I went back and looked, and I ended up playing. I think it ended up being 43 minutes. So he definitely had no problem that game.
Is there a lot of the gyms now have a scoreboard where it's got the running point total for individuals. Does yours have that?
Yeah, we do. And actually, I had no clue. I knew I had a pretty good first half. I had maybe 14, 12. That's pretty good normally for me. And so I was like, I really got to keep this going. And then I believe it was the beginning of the third quarter, maybe the middle of the third quarter, and I was shooting free throws. And my teammate, Addie Brownfield, she's from Boonville, Missouri, she comes to me, she's like, okay, Rick, I see you with a 30 burger. And I was like, huh? So I look up because, our scoreboard has the little point totals. And I was like, oh, my gosh, that was quick. So I was like, well, might as well keep this rolling.
Absolutely. And you've got teammates that can recognize that hot hand clearly and get the ball in your hands. Is that a lot of times with the freshmen, you kind of work your way in and you got to earn the respect of the seniors and then they get you the ball. It seems like from the get-go that wasn't a problem with you guys at Western Illinois, right?
For sure. I think it definitely took me a little bit of time to fit in with this team, but honestly, JD has done better, I think, than any other coach I've had of just kind of integrating me in, and he had talked to other players before I even came and was talking me up. So I think, honestly, that's what helped a lot.
Well, and I know I was reading some of the materials that Coach Gravina had said, after last year's recruiting class. I think he stacked back-to-back really good ones. Are you a pretty young team there at Western Illinois?
Absolutely. I would have to agree with him. I think our core is pretty young, and obviously that comes with some turnovers, and it is probably lost us some games this season, but it's like a lot of us are freshmen, sophomores, and then there's kind of an age gap. We don't have any juniors on the team. We have one transfer from JUCO. She's technically a junior, but it's all of us young ones, and then we have a couple seniors and a fifth year. So I'd say our core is really young.
Well, that's awesome for the future there. And looking at your stats, you're averaging 19 points and 8 rebounds a game. It's almost becoming comical now. The Ohio Valley Conference awards each week. You're now up to 16 of them, I believe, if I've got my count right. You've been the freshman of the week 12 times, been the actual player of the week in the Ohio Valley Conference 4 times. If they gave you anything for that, you'd probably have to move out of your dorm because there wouldn't be enough room for it. But
I would love that, but unfortunately I do not.
Oh, really? You're a freshman. This isn't supposed to happen with freshmen. I mean, did you anticipate there'd be a transition period for you where the speed of the game and all these things they talk about that you've got to figure out? Because, you hit the ground running, and it reminds me when I was at Drury as the SID there, Alex Hall scored 33 points in his first college game, from Kickapoo over to Drury, and never slowed up. And you've kind of done the same thing on the women's side. Have you surprised yourself a little bit with the way this season's gone?
I wouldn't say surprise myself. This was my plan all along coming in. I had that was coming in and getting playing time immediately was one of the biggest things to me. I didn't want to go somewhere where I was going to have to sit the bench or play behind somebody. So I think that was one of my reasons for honestly coming to WIU. And then having a coach who wanted to play me right away and believed that I could play right away, I think was another big thing. I would say the summer, before my freshman year was honestly my toughest adjusting time. It was just so tough. You come in, you've never played with these girls before, you're like, man, everyone is just so good. And it honestly, it took me a while. I would say, I remember Coach had said this in an interview a couple weeks ago. He said that once games started rolling, that's kind of when my confidence shot up, and I'd have to agree with him. I think playing against the same girls in practice over and over maybe gets a little bit repetitive, but I think once games started happening, I think is really when I caught my fire and my confidence started going up for sure.
Well, I know you committed. I actually signed November of your senior year, your early signing period there.
Yeah.
When did you commit to Macomb, Illinois, and Western Illinois, and what was the decision? What did it come down to?
I committed. I believe it was like the day after Halloween, I think, because I wanted to commit before my senior season happened, and just kind of get it out of the way, not stress about it anymore. The recruiting process was really, really stressful for me, so I got it out of the way then. And then I would say there was a lot of reasons for coming to Western Illinois. I think one of the main ones definitely was the coaches, and especially JD. He wanted me more than any other coach who was recruiting me, and he made it very apparent. And then, honestly, the girls here, I would say I fit in with this group of girls more than anywhere else as well. And then another thing is I had kind of caught wind that maybe Western Illinois was most likely going to move to the Ohio Valley Conference, and that conference, like generally speaking, is pretty close to my parents, compared to the Summit League. So that was a big deal to me too, my parents being able to come to games.
Sure. Yeah, you're an athletic 5'11" guard. What was the knock on you, do you think, from other D1s, maybe a higher level? What were they saying about Raegan McCowan?
For sure. I would say, honestly, a lot of coaches didn't know, like, what position they were going to play me in, which is something that I love about here is that, like, we pretty much play 5 out or 4 out, 1 in at Western Illinois. And then, like, pretty much I would consider myself a pretty positionless player. Like, I can play, honestly, I've played 5 here too. So it's like I can play 1 through 5. I can bring the ball up. I can also, post up, which is something that you kind of see in high school because players have to do. But it's something that, honestly, that I really thrive at. And I think a lot of coaches maybe weren't comfortable with me doing that at a college level. They kind of questioned, could I do it at a college level? Which is something that JD, I think, never doubted, which I really liked. And I think maybe some coaches were probably a little concerned about my shooting, if I was able to shoot, if I was able to make a college three and whatnot. So I think probably those are the things maybe some coaches were thinking.
Are you a chip on the shoulder kind of player? I mean, do things kind of motivate you that way? Do you remember some of the things that were said in the schools that didn't pay attention?
Yeah. For sure. I do. I wouldn't really say certainly like chip on my shoulder. I'm always just the type of person to be like, well, if it works out, it's going to. So a lot of that stuff I really didn't take to heart because I knew what I was capable of and I knew what I wanted to do with my college career. So it was kind of just like oh well. I mean, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it honestly ended up like for the better for me.
I mean, not every kid goes out. I think you were a sophomore, weren't you, and had a 23-point, 23-rebound game. Was that sophomore year?
Yeah, that was my sophomore year at Parkview.
Yeah, and finished with over 2,000 points, the all-time scoring leader there at Lebanon. Kelsey Winfrey barely got to hold that crown for a while, didn't she, before you came along? And was she somebody that you did you play with her at all, or was she always ahead of you year-wise?
I had never played with her. She was, I think, probably 3 or 4 years out of when I was in high school.
Okay.
But she was always someone that I looked up to, though. Always watched her high school games. I think we worked out a little bit. She's a great person, too. I had also kind of saw her college experience and realized that that's not what I wanted to get out of my college experience. She had gone to Mizzou for 2 years, transferred to Drury. She ended up loving it, absolutely. But I saw those first 2 years and how they really affected her and her college career, and I didn't want to do it. I wanted to go somewhere where I could play right away.
Now, you played for Jackie Payne, right, at Lebanon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a guy that knew how to shoot it and when to shoot it and never was bashful about it. Did it help playing for a guy like that to kind of build that offensive confidence?
Absolutely. I would say he's probably definitely more of an offensive coach, but I think that helped me too, him being a player. And I had heard, like you said, from people, he was definitely not afraid to shoot the rock. So I would say shot selection was something that I never got bashed for in my high school career.
Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about your relationship with J.D. Gravina. You know, I remember him from when he was at Quincy and during my Drury days, just a nice guy, fun guy to be around, and very, positive and uplifting. That said, you know where I'm going with this. He's probably nervous as all get out because the NCAA world we live in now is out of control and crazy with the transfer portal and tampering and things like that. Without naming any names, have you had people get word to you to see if you're interested in leaving Western Illinois? How is that whole thing playing out for you right now?
Not yet. I would say I get asked about it maybe once a day right now anyways. I get asked about it quite often, but right now no one really is, and I don't think they can because of the tampering rules, but I'll just tell you right now, Scott, I'm really enjoying it here at Western Illinois.
Well, and you know, the things you say, and you know, I know a big factor for you, and again, that could change, but the loyalty that Coach Gravina showed to you, and that, you know, right, to bring you in and let you be Raegan McCowan right off the get-go. Absolutely. There. I mean, that stuff all weighs in your mind, doesn't it?
For sure. I mean, another thing is, too, I mean, he believed in me when, I mean, if people do start to reach out, you know, it's something for me to definitely think about, is that he believed in me when no one else really did. So that is something that I will always appreciate from him for sure. And then letting me really come into college and embrace the type of player I was, even from high school, didn't have to change much, which was something that I really appreciated as well.
Grew up with a dad as a basketball coach. Your dad, Scott, now he's just a boring old insurance guy, isn't he? But lived a life as a good high school player at Buffalo, went on and played college ball, coached at Drury with Gary Stanfield, and then D1 assistant at SEMO. Were you a gym rat growing up?
Always. I would say him being a basketball coach definitely has obviously made me the player I am today. I would say another thing is that maybe not a lot of people think about, he's always helped me, worked me out, rebounded for me, been the best, most supportive dad. But something I think that I was so thankful for with him and his coaching experience was me during the recruiting process. Because it can get pretty tricky, and he really knew his in and outs with the recruiting process, what coaches were going to try to say to me, how they were going to try to sway me. And so I would say, like, with his background, that definitely helped me the most during the recruiting process.
Well, you guys are coming up on the end of the season, 16-11 overall, 7-9 in the Ohio Valley. You've hit a little bit of a 4-game losing streak here that I'm sure you're not happy about there. But
sure.
Is this a team that can go to the Ohio Valley tournament in Evansville and get on a roll and maybe get to the big dance? Absolutely.
I think the way that the tournament's set up, I do not like it. The first and second seed get 2 byes, so they just have to win 2 games to get into the NCAA tournament. But I honestly think that could work a little bit towards our advantage. I think we go up to Evansville, we get a couple wins, and then keep it rolling on a 4-game. You have to win 4 in a row to make the tournament. But I honestly think it's definitely something that we're capable of.
If everybody comes back, then how many starters would you have back next year?
We'd have 3 starters.
3 starters.
Out of our starting lineup, we're losing Anna Dietz and then Alyssa Dance, our post player.
Okay, and did they sign some early that can help immediately, or?
I think so. I think we have a post player coming from Iowa who should be helping us out.
Very good. What's your spring and summer look like? Do you come back to Lebanon for the summer?
Yeah. So another reason why I love this school, JD is super big on, once it's basketball season, it's basketball season, and we grind. But he's a big family guy. He lets us have our personal time, which I really do appreciate. So all of July, we have, or honestly half of May, because we end school May 12th, and then we get the rest of May off, all of June off, and then we come back in July. work out until the last week of July, and then we're headed to Costa Rica to play a couple games this summer.
That sounds like fun, and it sounds like a great approach to avoid burnout and keep you guys excited and fresh, doesn't it?
For sure. I would have to agree with that, for sure.
Well, Reagan, I know that your teammate mentioned the 30 burger. Let's see if you can get a 50 burger before this is done. But phenomenal season you've got going there. Congratulations, and we love checking the box scores. And old Scott McCowan's good about the Facebook posts on the the awards, because that keeps us all posted and keeps us aware of what's going on. But keep it going, okay?
All right, for sure. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Reagan. Special guest as the second part of our Double Reagans, our Reaganomics, our Everybody Loves Reagan special podcast today, is Reagan Zibilski, the sophomore at University of Arkansas, former Springfield Catholic golf star. Reagan Z, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great, thanks. And, I'm going to have trouble labeling this one. I'll just tell people before it comes out, because Raegan McCowan spells it R-A-E, and you're an R-E-A. So I don't know how I'm going to pull it off. I've got a couple days to figure it out. But nice to have two very nice and very successful Reagans on the same podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You betcha. So sophomore season of golf at University of Arkansas. Of course, it's split up into two seasons, the fall season and the spring. Spring is really the NCAA season with the championships and the SEC tournament and all that. Kind of give us a summary of year two for Reagan Zibilski at U of A.
Yeah, so got back around January 15th, and the weather was not great, not super conducive for the preparation, but our first tournament of the spring season was in Puerto Rico, so we ended up going a few days early to get some reps in, and we ended up winning that tournament. We came back from a 10-shot deficit, I think. On the last day, we shot 12 under, and we ended up winning by one, which is crazy that college golf always comes down to one shot because you got 5 girls on each team.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a 5-shot swing in a 2-hole section, which is crazy. But I feel like that's always the way it ends up. But then about a week ago, we played in a tournament in Melbourne, Florida. It was the Moon Invitational and had about 17 teams, about 9 SEC teams. So it was a good kind of kickstart to some of the fields that we'll be seeing in the future. Didn't have our best stuff. The weather was really janky. We ended up playing our practice round and the first round in the same day because the original first round start date was a complete wash because of rain. So had to adjust, had to pivot, but still a solid finish. And we leave on Friday for the Darius Rucker Intercollegiate, which is always like a fan favorite every year. It's in Hilton Head. There's a big concert at the tournament, and it's on the Golf Channel. It's next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
So you'll wave at everybody from back here, right?
Yeah, of course.
Did you, before you went down to Arkansas, did you know who Darius Rucker was?
I did. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because, I used to, on our radio interviews, used to make you call the Hogs. I think we're going to have to make you sing your favorite Darius Rucker song
no.
before we finish up today. Do you know which one that is, by the way, or not? Wagon Wheel? That's a fun one.
Okay, so yes, because one of my teammates, she's from Barcelona, Spain. She didn't know who Darius Rucker was, didn't know he existed until her freshman year when she went to this tournament, and that was like the first song that he sang in his concert, and it has stuck with her ever since. Like, if you ask her, hey, do you know country music? She'll say, yes, I know Darius Rucker and I know Wagon Wheel.
Oh, good. Well, good. She's learning quick. She'll maybe pick up another song this year while she's there, right?
Yeah. Well, pick up another song this year. So that's the one that we always sing, and that's the fan favorite.
Yes, and he's had several. He played here at Drury at the O'Reilly Center back when they were doing concerts there, and he was really good. I think that was when he first made the crossover from Hootie and the Blowfish to Country Star there. But you brought you brought up a good point there because I'm looking down the roster, and I see Argentina, Spain, Paraguay, Texas, which is its own country anyway, Colombia, not the city but the country, Mexico, South Africa, and then a couple Arizonas and beautiful Springfield, Missouri. What is it like for all you guys when you first meet? And I mean, are there language barriers? Or are there things you laugh at each other over because the customs are different? What's that like with a new team?
Honestly, I'm glad you asked this question because this actually came up in conversation the other day. So we have 10 girls total. 5 of them come from Spanish-speaking countries. And then you have South Africa, which she's a lot more like it. She's been here for 5 years. She's going to live here for the rest of her life. We have matches, Latin versus Americans, and she's always on the American side. But 5 of the girls come from a Spanish-speaking country, and honestly, it is so fun. Like, it's been probably one of my top 3 favorite things about coming here because, number one, we learn from each other every day. Number 2, their culture is so awesome. They're so fun, so fiery, so animated. And also, I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, didn't retain any of it, but I think the year and a half that I've been here, I've retained more Spanish from just hearing it than I did in school. So I think, personally, so Miriam Aora, she's from Barcelona, Spain. I'm actually thinking that I'm going to go visit her in Spain this summer. So it's just gaining these connections, like, through this, it'll give me friendships for a lifetime, places to travel, and we just have fun together. I mean, we laugh at each other all the time. Like, SEC is in Birmingham, Alabama. Miriam can't say Birmingham, so that's always been something that, we laugh at every time we go to SECs. We're going to Brighamham. And it's like, no, Miriam, it's Birmingham. So just like stuff like that, it's been so fun to kind of learn from each other because they do a lot of things very differently in Spain, for example, and in Paraguay than they do here. And, I think being from 2 hours away, like, they always love, like, hey, are you going home this weekend? I'm going to come with you. Stuff like that. And getting them to know my family, and like Miriam being a 9-hour flight away, having a family like mom and dad to get to know and to have a place to go if she's ever here alone, or if she ever needs anything. So it's been really fun. It's something that I am really grateful for.
I'm a little disappointed in Coach Taylor because when I looked at the roster, there's a freshman from Goodyear, Arizona. Abby, is it Shut or Shoot?
Shoot.
Well, she's a redhead. And did you explain to Coach Taylor that I'm the redhead on this team?
I did, but Abby and I, we get mistaken as sisters, like, everywhere we go together. Like, hey, like, are you guys sisters, whatever. But honestly, like, it's been so fun because she's just as fiery and as animated as I am. And Shauna's always like, man, like, I recruited 2 redheads. Like, what are we going to do? But no, she's a treat.
Are those characteristics of a redhead fiery? I mean, you don't ever hear any that are very passive, do you?
No, absolutely not.
It just doesn't happen, right?
It just rarely.
What, your fall schedule, you talked about the start this spring. You guys went back to Pebble, and you had your Blessings event, which looks like it had a little weather issue as well. Did you feel like you played pretty well in the fall?
Oh, yeah. Individually and team-wise, I think was very, very stellar for our group. We went out to Pebble, and we finished runner-up there against 7 really good teams. And then Blessings, of course, we had a home field advantage there. Blessings, you just can't get it in 1 or 2 days. But we all played really solid there. The third round got rained out, but the first 2 days were still enough to get it done by a pretty good margin, if I can remember. And then we went to Trinity Forest, which is in Dallas, for the Stevens Cup, which Mr. Stevens is a very generous Arkansas Razorback fan / donor. So we are actually the host team for that event every year. And they take like 6 of like the best teams, 7 maybe, in the country at the time. And they bring them to a site. Like the first year was Alotian. The second year we played at Seminole, so my freshman year. And then this past year it's Trinity Forest. And honestly, we didn't play bad at that event. We just got beat by some really good golf. And that happens sometimes. But I had a really good finish. I think it was like my first top 10 or like 11th place or something like that. And that was good. And then we had a really long off season because we only had 3 events, which is normally you have 4 or 5 because we have 5 regular season events in the spring. So we had a lot of downtime, which some of our girls went and played the World Amateur, representing their countries, and so that gave them the opportunities to go play in some events in their home countries. But we were ranked number 1 for, we get crap, but a very short period of time, but we still did it. We finished the fall season ranked 3rd. Started the spring season ranked 3rd, and I think we dropped a few after last week. But then overall, a very good year. Very good team chemistry. Having a lot of fun with this group. We're a very good golf team. We're capable of doing some pretty good things this year. So I'm really excited, and I'm pumped up for everyone.
You got any newcomers, new faces, or is it pretty much the same team as last year?
So my freshman year, we had 10. We had 2 girls transfer. One of them was my fellow freshman, and then a sophomore. They both transferred out. And then we had 2 new girls come in the fall. Abby, my fellow redhead from Phoenix, and then Maria Jose Marine from Cali, Colombia, who's ranked 15th in the world right now. And she's 4'11" of just fiery, animated attitude. I mean, that kid is probably one of the greatest golfers I've ever seen, but does it in such a boring way that just doesn't make sense to me. But she's amazing at what she does, and it's been such a treat to, learn from her, especially learning from someone younger. Like, we feed off of each other. Like, I have helped her with balancing school and balancing being a freshman in college, but she's helped me so much, like, with my game, and she'll go out with me and say, no, Reagan, you can't chip that way, and, like, feeding off of her for some things, which has been fun. This has been a great addition to the team. And then we're actually getting 3 next fall, but we're losing 4. So it's going to be a bit of a roster change next year.
So Maria, 4'11" freshman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and are you 5'11"? What do you officially list your?
I think that I'm officially listed as 5'11", but like at that point, I might as well say 6 foot. With Hoka's on, I'm 6 foot.
Do you blow it by her lengthwise, and she just pecks away, or how does that go when you guys play?
Per pound, she pumps it. I mean, she can move it, but I mean, I've got a foot on, so I mean, she's not the longest person, but she's definitely not the shortest person on our team. Mm-hmm. And just, hits it exactly where she's aimed every time. Reagan, I'm going to hit it 9 foot right of the flag, and it's going to roll to 3 feet. I mean, it happens every time. So, and then, on the green, she's just a maniac. She, makes everything. Speed is perfect. It's just very boring golf.
You talked about the one-stroke thing. Seems like every tournament comes down to one shot somewhere, which has got to be just brutal for 5 girls to get on a bus or a plane going home and thinking, well, if I'd have made that 4-footer, that type of thing, each one of you.
Every time.
Yeah. And of course, last year, I think, wasn't that a one-shot thing that kept you from going to the NCAA finals?
It was.
Yeah.
It was, yep.
And so how is this team better equipped, do you think, for an SEC championship and an NCAA championship run?
100%. I'm telling you right now, we have the means to win SECs and nationals. We have, all 10 of us are capable, and the 6 that we have on the bus every week can do some really special things. And I think this is like talking to my coaches, and it's like we have a lot of talent, but we also have really hard workers who are able to hone in on stuff that they need to get that 1% better at. And I mean, as you know, anything can happen in match play, but we have some really good match players who will just beat you down. Like Maho and I, we call her Maho, Maria Jose Maho. Maho and I played a match in our like little Ryder Cup that we have, like I said, the Spanish speakers versus English speakers. And she, by the way, has no concept of time, probably runs 10 to 15 minutes late to everything that we have. And she's had to learn. She's only 17, so we give her a little bit of grace on that. But she, I'm warming up for a match. This was in November, so it was like off season. I'm warming up. I'm like, where's Maho? Maho gets there about 37 seconds before the tee time. No warm up, no nothing. Goes out there, birdie, 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 birdie.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, not a good habit to get into for you. I mean, you probably ought to hit some balls, and so, hey, what is the big difference between Reagan Zibilski, the freshman, and the sophomore version this year?
Oh man, honestly, I think experience, and I have more things in my tool belt, and I'm more quick. My freshman year, I didn't know anything about what was happening. So many unknowns. I was hurt in the spring for a short period of time. And honestly, like, I think I've just grown a lot. And I've been able to take a little bit of a leadership role on the team as a sophomore. And I think that being able to do that has allowed me to learn a lot more about my teammates. And honestly, I just don't get frazzled easy anymore. And I think being a college athlete is really, really hard. And you have to have a lot of patience and grace towards yourself, because it's not always going to be easy, and it's not like it looks on the outside. I mean, it's brutal. You're up at 5:30 a.m. every morning, and sometimes you're up until 11 studying because you were gone for 4 days and have no idea what's going on in class. So I think just kind of being prepared and managing my time has allowed me to learn a lot more about myself.
Yeah, that being said, and the grind that you've discovered that college golf is, does that make you approach your upcoming summer a little differently than maybe you thought you would in terms of your schedule and how much you want to play and how much you want to travel and things like that to go play?
Yeah, so, I mean, Nationals is middle half-ish, back half of May, and then they just introduced something called the Elite Amateur Series. They had it for the men last year, and they just added the women, and it's 5 amateur events throughout the summer that you can gain points, and whoever, there's like a leaderboard and points that they keep track of just these 5 or 6 events, and you get exemptions to things from. So my goal is to play those 5 events, and then actually, fun fact, the Missouri Women's Amateur is at Hickory Hills this year.
Oh.
And it's the first year that they're giving a USAM exemption to the winner. So I will be playing home court, June 18th through the 20th. So I'm going to play in that also, along with the 5 other events, and then hopefully the USAM right before I come back for my junior year.
So, you play out there with a bunch of adult men, and you outdrive most of them. If you want to mention any right now that you take particular pride in outdriving each summer, go ahead. I'll give you about 10 seconds now.
Oh, man. Actually, I went home this past weekend. We had the weekend off, and I played with Wayne Frederick, he's been, able to kind of mentor me through the years, which has been great. And then, I mean, just the usual Hickory group, the weekend group, Corey Bowman, Jeff Lee, all those people. I got to play with all of them this weekend. But no, I mean, it's honestly great. Like, I feel like if I didn't get the experience of playing with those guys every Saturday and Sunday in the summer for the last 5 years, I don't think that I'd be where I am today. And that's serious. Like, teeing it up from 6,800 yards, with 3 matches going, it prepares you. It really does.
Do you outdrive Dad?
and he'll argue with me on this. I played with him on Saturday, and I'm telling you, I think I hit it past him at least 4 or 5 times, which he pumps it. And so I was very excited whenever I saw my ball, even if it was 2.5 yards past his. Still a point.
Well, you should have quite the gallery then for the Missouri Women's Amateur on your home course. It'll be, I guess, depending on whether they're cheering for you or not, based on how much you beat them out there. But a lot of golf between now and then, Reagan. Keep challenging and conquering those hills of the University of Arkansas campus. I know you're probably in a lot better shape as a sophomore as you were a freshman when you got there.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, and best of luck to you in the SEC and NCAA. And do you want to sing a Darius song, or do you just want to save that for another time?
We're going to save that for another time. We'll save it for after I experience his concert.
Okay. If you win it, you have to sing a Darius song live, okay?
Deal. I will sing all of it.
Very good. Reagan, always a fun time to catch up with you. Best of luck to you, and we'll do it again later on, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, Reagan. Wrapping up our weekly Around the Ozarks Sports Scene podcast with Scott's Thoughts, my ramblings and musings about things in the sports world as they hit me suddenly, and I will share them with you. One coming out in the last few days was LeBron James complaining about all the attention that is being thrown on his son Bronny, freshman out at USC. Those at the Tournament Champions fans each year remember Bronny James coming here with his Sierra Canyon team few years back and not really wowing the crowd with his abilities. Again, he was a young kid then. He was a sophomore or actually a sophomore at the time. But LeBron now is saying, quit putting so much pressure on my kid. Let him be a kid and let him play. That rings a little hollow when you come into a high school tournament and you've got 4 bodyguards. So I know that he may feel that's necessary, but you kind of bring that attention on, and it's too bad for the kid because you're LeBron James' kid. It comes with the territory. So we'll see how that develops. Mentioned on the What's Ahead about the basketball Bears. Sadly, I think the Dana Ford era is about to end. Dana's a good guy, good in the community, like the recruits he brings in, but apathy has set in for the basketball Bears. The crowds aren't turning out. They weren't turning out all year. Now they've really dwindled. You lose 5 of your last 6 going into the final week of the season. That plays a part in that. But I just feel like that this Missouri State administration is going to say, you know what, we need a fresh start. And, of course, with a new president coming in, that could signal a change as well. So looks like that's now, again, they've got a chance in the Missouri Valley Tournament to get hot. And the talent's there if they're healthy, but we'll see if that happens. Congratulations to all of our state wrestling competitors up in Columbia last weekend. Special shout-out to Nixa senior Brynja Crahan. She finished 52-0 this year and wrapped up her 3rd consecutive state championship. That's quite the accomplishment in girls wrestling, a sport that's really kind of just come on the scene here in the last 5 or 6 years in Missouri, but what a finish for that young lady. So congratulations to all the wrestlers. Also, congrats out there to Dave Collins, the veteran swim coach for the Missouri State women's swim and dive team. Also has the men's team over there, but his women have now won 8 consecutive Missouri Valley Conference championships. They did it again over the weekend. They just keep doing what they do. And great job by Dave and the women's team over at Missouri State there. Arkansas has had a miserable sports year. Football was awful. Men's basketball was even worse, given the expectations. They've kind of climbed out of it and won 4 of their last 7, which is no great feat there. But I think Arkansas baseball is going to be the sport that all the fans have waited for all year down in Fayetteville and Razorback land. They're the number 2 team in the country this week in the poll, off to a solid start. I believe it's 6-2 at this taping. They had a phenomenal showing down in Arlington at an event down there. Junior pitcher Hagan Smith struck out 17, a new school record in a 5-4 win over Oregon State, which is also a top 10 team. But Hagan Smith struck out the first 15 batters of the game. Never seen that before in my lifetime, but the kid's phenomenal. Junior lefty. He's a top 15 or 20 pick probably in the draft in July, Major League Baseball draft. Arkansas pitchers combined to strike out 25 after against in a 14-inning loss to Oklahoma State, one day after they struck out 23 against Oregon State. So it's going to be fun to watch the Razorbacks see what they can do this baseball season. Court storming's been a big subject here in the last few days after the unfortunate incident at Wake Forest where Duke's best player got run over by the herd coming onto the floor after an upset win. I don't really know what you do about it to change it unless you start putting up rope around the court and get enough security. But when do you know they're going to win a game like that? You know, a game worthy of an upset that creates the court storming. Maybe you delay the court storming 10 seconds. Good luck with that so the other team can get off the floor. There's talk about schools now starting to suspend the students that they see court storming by video and going back and suspend them for a week of classes. Is that really a punishment? I know there's some kids who would say, okay, yeah, please go ahead and do that until their parents found out anyway. So don't know what the situation calls for as far as a solution, but I don't know that there is one, and we'll see what happens coming out of that if the NCAA can get off their hands with all the other stuff going on and maybe do something about court storming. Big thanks to our sponsor, Fast Break Sports. It's baseball season. Spring training games are being played. Go by Fast Break Sports over at their South Campbell location near the Burger King there at Campbell and Battlefield. Go get your baseball cards for the year, your supplies, all that great stuff at Fast Break Sports. Again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene.